one thing I would tell you, the freedom that you have with multimedia, if you really own this craft, I got hired to do some videography work during All-Star Weekend in Atlanta, and blessed to be able to travel, still blessed to be able to teach you guys. So the stuff that I do, I want to show you everything that I do, show you the skills that you can acquire so that you guys can work remotely, work on your own time. And, the skills that you're learning with this software, you'll be able to do whatever you want with your own business, So those are some of the key things, about this class. Again, we're only one day a week. What we go over today, just this little bit of lesson in the software today is literally just introduction. For you to really get the software, I say it over and over, you have to put the time in, watch the videos on your own. If you need an extra lesson outside of class with me, again, text me, we can set it up. I had a lot of lessons last semester with students who needed a little more time, than what we had allocated in class. So that's fine. But radio podcasting, we start in the terrestrial radio. The formats for radio is just various. It can be anything, talk, sports, contemporary. And literally we see nowadays, especially with podcasting, it could be absolutely anything. Absolutely anything. The more focused in you are, the better, but you could talk about anything. People have podcasts reviewing TV shows that are doing great just because you have that niche crowd that likes that TV show, right? So different kind of formats. You got your vocabulary, your rap, your intro, in cue, out cue, tag, talent, tease, bed. You're not going to have like a pop quiz vocabulary lesson on these, but these are just good industry terms to kind of know some things that you will, some vocabulary that you will see. And again, I'll provide this for you, so you'll have it, just for referencing. Again, the radio basically, transitions from AM, FM to satellite radio to where we're at today with the podcasting, right? And it distributes you all over. I'm going to show you guys today as well. I have a podcast with one of my businesses, one of my entertainment platforms outside of, being a professor. And we use Podbeams that basically puts us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, all the different areas you can get audio streaming. If this is something that you're interested in doing, you need a distributor. All right. So I'll show you that as well today. But let me get into, so that was kind of the slide we went over last week. Let me get into what we are going to be doing today. All right. So assignment 2 looks a little something like this. And we did go over it. I showed you a few examples last week of the students, a couple of students, and I'm gonna show you again today. But this one, just go ahead and kind of lock it in your mind, make a decision now. It can be like a PSA, right? It's an audio, the key is the audio visual PSA. Or it could be straight podcast, right? So maybe you got a message on a specific topic. If you remember last week, one of the students did a domestic violence PSA, and she had pictures of like, a distraught family and, the statistics that went along with it. So she had a domestic violence audio PSA. Other people had a podcast about, the job that they do or things that they were interested in. So you have the freedom, it's your creativity. This is also kind of insight on you. Remember that all of this, every project we do, this is a project-based class. You are building your portfolio. This is stuff that you can use to show to businesses. I've done this before, we did this. So maybe, if you want to work for a certain company or something like that, or in that genre, make your project based in that area. If you want to work for Apple, maybe do something tech about Apple. If you work for cars, whatever, if it's the music, maybe make it a music podcast or make it a music PSA or a concert PSA or something, related to what you want to do. And again, like I told you, all these assignments kind of go into your final project as well. So if you, you know, want to kind of keep it connected with your final project in the year, you know, go ahead and do it. If it's for your business, do your business, right? All right, but the main goal of this is to introduce you guys to Adobe Premiere. Okay, so Adobe Premiere is really a video editing software in Adobe, Illustrator, and Photoshop. We went over Photoshop last week. Here's just a brief introduction to Premiere and Illustrator. Both of them you can use to do videos. Illustrator is just known to be more, you use more effects, right? So if you're really big on effects, a lot of your effects that you want to do, you can do in Illustrator. But I'll show you simple way to do this project in Premiere. And then if you want to get fancy, you can use Illustrator to get fancy. But you, either or, again, you know, I'm not the type to say you got to use this software, you got to use this, whatever you know can do to get the project done. But these are the two that we'll be going through today. All right. And so 2 parts of the, I'm not going to read it detail, but there's 2 audio picture story or your PSA podcast sizzle, right? So let me just show you an example of your audio picture story. I want to say before we get into it. All right, so this is an example. I showed it last week, but just a reminder, this is an example of the audio picture story, okay?
Hey guys, my name is Hadia Teresa Ade Omar. My name actually means a gift from God. I am a 21-year-old graduating senior at North Carolina A&T State University. My motto is, live life to the fullest. In the midst of everything that goes on in life, and it's
okay, so I'm not gonna watch the whole thing, but you hear the audio, you see the pictures that relate, pictures may be moving or whatever, you can add graphics. So that's your audio picture story. Very simple, we see that all the time, right? The difference is you are JOMC professional, so ideally yours should look cleaner than your mom doing it on iMovie, you know, or something like that. So that's the audio picture story. And let me show you a few examples of what the students did last semester for podcasting. All right. So this one was Miss Trinity Hampton's. She does like grills and jewelry in the mouth. So this was hers. Now, remember, with your podcast, you don't need multiple pictures. You could just literally use your cover art. The other part of your assignment is making your cover art if you're just doing the podcast. Okay. So this was hers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gym Trap podcast edition. In this podcast, I will be teaching you all the different tips and tricks and techniques to becoming a better tooth gym technician and to be able to apply your tooth.
All right. So again, I'm not going to play the whole thing, you know, because we're not critiquing them. This is a whole nother class, a whole nother semester. But you can see the gym trap. So the gyms is talking about putting, you know, I didn't, when we first listened to this podcast, I didn't really get it, but it was talking about, you know, grills, jewelry in the mouth. So her picture, her subject matter, it goes with, this is her business. So she chose this because this is the business that she does. So she went ahead and, you know, made an example podcast for it. All right. So maybe that kind of give you guys some ideas of what you want to do. Now, looking at her cover art, I love it. You know, you see the grills. Now, there's only some things that are missing. What, if you are just looking at this, somebody tell me, what do you think is missing from her cover art?
Her name?
Oh, booyah, right. We don't know who the hell this is talking. We don't know nothing. You know what I mean? So make sure if you're doing cover art that people know who it is, right? And this, because this is your first thing. It's not like your name rings bells like Dave Chappelle or, you know, somebody like that. So make sure that you have the information. Somebody's just looking at your cover art, they know that, you know, maybe it's not a music single or it's whatever, you know, and she has podcast edition, great, but, you know, maybe she could have put in a corner, which we told her, hosted by blah, 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 you know. So think about those things, you know, when you're working on your projects. I think I was going to show you another one. That's the gym trap. Taylor Marshall, this was a good one. I liked hers. Let's see another example if it comes up. It's going a little slow. Let's see. Oh, Miss Gonzalez.
Hey, it's your girl Suze, and welcome to POC Radio, where we get real and we have fun. Today's affirmation: I have the ability to stand tall in any situation that I face. Okay, so to get started, y'all, make sure y'all hashtag travel with Suze and include any cool places that I need to go visit.
Okay, so again, not gonna listen to the whole thing. We got her name here at the bottom, Travel with Suze. Maybe she could have put podcast at the bottom just so people know it's a podcast. We also told her she left a lot of spacing here. Like, even though, we got to travel, the airplane, that's all good. Food, that's what we're going to talk about. It's a traveler's podcast, but she could have tightened it up a little bit, or maybe rearranged this car so that it's not so much white space. Now, again, it's purple. Okay, this is purple, different shades of purple or violet, whatever you want to call it. But remember, our vocabulary from our print stuff, white space is also just a lot of extra space sometimes that we don't want in designs, right? So if you're doing a podcast, you are going to have to think about your cover art, all right, and how you want your visual to be. Why is that important? Because like we said last week, go to it. The cover art, it can be essential to how people perceive you. People understanding. Basically, if they're scrolling and they got to compete, right? Say someone has to compete with, you got to compete with other people. You got to compete with, are they going to listen to you or are they going to listen to somebody else, right? And so your cover art could play a major role in that, all right? We Googled last week podcast cover art, and like I said, look at nuclear option, the dropout, tell me something I don't know. So if you're doing a podcast, Two Dope Queens, definitely just think about your cover, even if it's you, right? Look at all these different color designs. If it's more news, all right, the Daily Show podcast, right? We know the Daily Show, real news, right? Very clean. Remember our colors. Remember color theory that we talked about? Color theory: green being calm, blue being the calm color, red, orange, yellows being more fiery, high energy, right? So is your podcast a high energy podcast? Is that something that you got to think about? Okay, so before this stuff right here, this is a little extra. I'm not gonna jump into that yet. That's gonna be at the end, and maybe even before our projects. But what I am gonna do is jump straight into Premiere. Okay, go ahead and give you guys a quick sample of Premiere. All right, so I already had a project started, right, with this stuff. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start a new project for you. So if you don't have your computer up right now, pull it up, open up the software. If you can't pull up right now, this is where you wanna go ahead and start taking notes, okay? I will have this video up, I will put the video up, but here's where you can write step 1, step 2, step 3, whatnot. All right, so if we were starting from scratch, okay, we'll be starting from scratch. So I'm just going to open up a whole new project for you guys so you can see. We'll call it LMC Spring Audio. Okay. So if you're seeing this is a new project screen. All right. You name your project right here. All right. Name it whatever you want. And then you go to browse to find out where you want to save your project. Okay. Which is key. So for you guys, I'm going to just save you. I have you in my A&T folder, spring, and that's not even wrong. Spring assignment, audio lessons. All right. So I got you saved where I want you saved that. Okay. We got the new lesson coming up. So what's going to happen? I'm going to get a new screen here in a second. Computer a little slow. Let's see. Open up. Okay, so it's not opening. Well, if it doesn't open, this is what happened. This is what we'll do. All right. Okay, so if you got a new project, my computer's going slow, but if you got a new project, it's going to look something like this, okay, when you open the screen. All right, it's going to be blank. You're not going to see anything. You're not even really going to see this timeline, okay? This is what you're going to see. Blank, 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 blank. All right, and if you notice here, you see the blue surrounds each section you're at. So this is more of like a viewing section. What you'll see video-wise will come here. This will be your viewing screen for after things are edited, and then this is your timeline. This is where all the action happens right here in your timeline, okay? And then here to the left, this is where you kind of find your file. So it may seem like a lot, but it's definitely not too much, all right? So if you're opening from the blank screen, okay, new project, there's this new item right here. You see I hover over and it says new item, all right? Click the new item, and we want to click sequence, okay? Sequence is where you'll be doing all your work. From there, depending on what you're working on, what kind of camera you're working on, you can really get specific. But most likely you guys will always click on digital DSLR, okay? Digital SLR, and we want to do 1080, 24 frames. So 24 frames per second is your average. That's kind of really how the eye sees things. In cinema and videography, most of the time playbacks are 24 frames per second. Or as you can see on the screen, you see it says time pace 23.976 FPS. That is just standard. That's just standard, no matter what the eyes usually, that's just how the eye sees. Sometimes you see people film in 30 frames per second. Basically what they're doing there is that they're filming at a higher rate. So when you do your slow motion and things or other effects, it still looks smooth. All right, so that's really what you're seeing there. But for you guys, DSLR, SLR, 1024, you could do here as well, but depending on what you're shooting. But for our purposes, 1080, 24 frames per second. And let's do audio demo. You can name your section whatever you want. Audio demo, spring. All right, and we click OK. So I got about 9 minutes, which is plenty of time for me to just kind of show you some basics, but we will do, I will send a link for the second half, but stay locked in real quick. What I did already was I saved some pictures. When we first did this example, it was during the presidential election. So I saved. What you are going to have to do is, if you have your podcast picture, right, you save it, all right? If you have, multiple pictures, save them all together, save your audio so that you can just go find them in your browser. So you got your sequence here to the right, bottom right, your sequence. This is where all your editing goes. Over here to the left, this is like your media browser. So this is where I would find the files that I need, okay? In the folder, I made a audio lesson and audio tools. So I have a little folder of, we got audio here, you see an MP3 file, and then I have like 2 pictures that I'm gonna use just for examples for this project. So first, number 1 key to editing, all right, is you always edit to the sound, okay? Edit to the sound. So what that means is you put the sound, usually you put the sound on the timeline first, all right? Because then you can drag the visuals to it. You do that with music videos. Most time you do that with news stories, everything. Usually most people edit to sound first, okay? So just for the example of this, I'm gonna drag in, I thought we had some audio. I'm gonna drag in this audio here. Now, this is presidential song. All right, sounds real presidential, right? All right. Where did I find that song? Well, thanks for asking. You could actually do YouTube library, YouTube audio library. All right, so put this in the notes, YouTube audio library. All right, that is where you can find royalty-free music, royalty-free sounds. This is what the dashboard looks like. All right, so if I were to, and sometimes I have the link for you in your in the assignment to the bottom of the page, but if you needed to, you can always do YouTube, yeah, audio library. Okay, and make sure it's this one, okay, studio.youtube.com. All right, sometimes this will come up. All right, this is not YouTube audio like that. That's not it. This is the one, studioyoutube.com, and it will look something like this. I'm using, I think, an older version of it. I think you could go to how it used to look, but like, so if I wanted to say free music, if I want to say scary, right? Let's say scary. Okay, so it's supposed to give me a selection. Doesn't really sound scary, but you see, you got hip hop dark, ambient dark. Right. So sound effects here, you know, kids playing, whatever you need. So all that is here on YouTube Audio Library. That is where I got this presidential sound. So, but this right here, the sound, this will be called the bed. And if I wanted to, I can capture things. So this line right here, at the bottom, I'm dragging the timeline. I can make it bigger, smaller. Okay. I'm gonna pull this back some. If I want to drag this, I just go to the end of it, drag it out, drag it in. All right. I want to make this a little bigger, so I'm just gonna go to the side here, and I can change the length of my little section, so you can see your volume a little bit more. Now here, once you make it bigger, this little line, I can click this line and drag it up and down. And so you do want to make sure that your audio, as far as music, does not overpower your voiceover, okay? So, all right, so one thing, when your audio is playing, you see right here, you got your volume right here. Now you see I'm peaking here. Audio-wise, you always want to stay around 12 or under 12 if you can. It's okay if they go a little bit higher. Okay, and for this, most likely, I'm going to want this to be low because I would have talking over it. Today's news, blah, 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 blah. Right, so this is how you can kind of control the volume. I can also right-click and do, you know, audio grain, audio channels if I wanted to change it even further. Okay, so our audio is there, okay, at least the music wise. So let's say we start off with saying something like, you know, last year's presidential election was one of the most fierce elections ever. All right, so when we say that, we want to see a shot of Trump and Biden, right? So I'm gonna drag the picture that I already saved in there, okay? And I'm just gonna drag it on my timeline. So again, I gotta remember everybody hasn't used this. On the bottom, right, you see here, I dragged the picture here. On the bottom is your audio. You see A1, A2, A3, right? It can keep going. You see up here, you got V1, V2. Up top is video, up at the bottom is audio. For this picture, I dragged Joe in, and just like that, you know, it fits. I can drag him in. If I need to make it longer, I can make it longer. Okay. All right. So we'll say that the audio, again, I don't have the audio in, but I say, you know, last year's presidential election was one of the fiercest that I ever seen. Statistics show that blah, blah, blah. Well, I said statistics show. A big key to audio visual stories is referencing, okay? Basically meaning if I say something, I should see it on the screen. So if I bring up some stats about the presidential election, then I'm gonna take my picture of the stats, all right, and I'm gonna drag it on in there, all right? So, blah, blah, this presidential election, one of the statistics show that blah, 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 okay? So we see that. Now, as you can see from there, it's just dragging. If I wanna bring a picture again, I bring another picture, all right? Let's just pretend these are other pictures, okay? I drag it in. Now, another thing is not keeping a picture up too long, okay? Making sure that it flows with the conversation, okay? All right, so two things I want to show you, little tricks, and actually we're less than a minute. So, all right, so what I was saying is if you taking a picture with your phone vertically, most likely when you bring it into like a 1080, you know, by 1920 video, you're gonna have the outside, you see the lines are black. So what you can do is click on whatever clip that you want to duplicate, hold Option, okay, and drag it down. You see that, or drag it up, or wherever you want to take it. It doesn't matter, but it makes a copy of that image. I'm gonna take it down because I want it to be below this one. All right, I'm gonna click on it, and then I go over here to Effects. Okay, up here we got Effects where I was seeing the clip. I'm gonna click Effects, and I'm going to make this larger. All right, so all I'm doing is, you see the scale here? Scale is just basically size. And when I go over the size, it gives me an arrow to like go up and down, and I can just go up, I can go down, okay? But I wanna go up to fill the screen, all right? And then down here in your media browser, you got media browser, info, libraries, effects, right? I'm gonna click effects here. And I'm gonna click blur, okay? So when you got blur, you got all these different blur options come up: channel blur, compound blur. The one I like is Kassan blur. So you can double click it, or you can click it and drag it to the clip that you want, okay? So I click and drag it to the clip. Now, all your details for the clip is in this effects tools here up top, okay? This here is just like options that are available, but to really see the effects on your clip, it's gonna be here. All right, so we drag the Kassan blur onto this clip that's highlighted. Now we see it in the effects tools up here to your top left. So what we wanna do is click it, and we wanna adjust the blurriness. Right now the blurriness is 0. So when I drag this to the right or left, I want you guys to watch this screen right here. This is your feedback screen. So I am going to, let's make it a little blurry. And you see there, see behind it? So I make it a little blurry, and this, you see this in the news a lot with videos or whatever. If somebody uses their phone vertically, they'll double up the video, they'll make it blurry in the background. So you see, you know that this is like the same picture, but one is blurry, it's not black, and then it makes you focus in on the picture in the middle, okay? So that's a little trick that you guys can do if you have pictures, that if you're doing a picture story, or even if you're doing in your podcast and you wanted to reference something. But if you're doing a picture story specifically for this project, if you're doing a picture story, that's a little trick you can do if your picture does not fill the screen. The other thing, a little bit of motion, okay? All right, a little bit of motion. So let's say we want to add some motion to Biden and Trump here. So again, if I click on them, again, if I want to adjust anything for the clip, the effects are here, top left. So I'm just going to say, if I want to make it big, you see I can make it small, I can make it big. This was not a PNG image, which basically means like this black background is literally there. It's not like I could put something under them and we'll see what's under them. I didn't cut them out. This is like a black background, I believe. Let me see, we can find out for sure if I drag this under it. Yeah, see, so it's a black background. You see I drag that under, it's black. So for the purpose of this example, I'm just gonna leave it. I'm not gonna try to cut them out. The focus here is a slight motion of being larger or smaller, okay? And this is used in music videos everywhere now. So what you want to do is click on your section, okay? We go back up to the effects tool, all right? So all we're doing is scaling it up or down, all right? We're gonna make, if we want it to go small, we want it to go big. So let's say we want it to be small. So let's start at 60, okay? So we have a 60, and wherever you're at on your timeline, you see your line here, and then you have your line here, your cursor here. It kind of just shows you where you're at. I'm gonna click this little, you see toggle animation. This is really just a keyframe, okay? That's what these little things are like, keyframes. It lets you know where your animation is gonna start. So when I click this, it's basically saying that at this point, what this picture will be at 60 size, okay? And so what I'm gonna do is drag it over a little bit, okay? And by the end of this, I want it to be at 100, okay? I want it to fill the screen. And so basically what you see from this keyframe, I click the first one, whenever I change the size, it's gonna automatically add another keyframe. And I'm just gonna drag that to the beginning, so I know it's at the beginning, and I'm gonna drag that one to the end, okay? So drag that one to the beginning. I can put them wherever I want, but I'm gonna put that one in the beginning, put it to the end. So when this frame comes up, this is what we get. So you see that slow transition of, that's going from 60 size to 100, but it's small to big coming up to you, okay? You can do that same thing going right to left, okay? So just like I did, I'm gonna delete these. I'm gonna click on this keyframe right here, delete. I'm gonna click on this keyframe right here, delete, okay? So now you see it's just at 60. All right, nothing changed. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make this 100, okay? And I'm gonna delete that keyframe. Because this, once you do the keyframe, I gotta take that off. You gotta unclick it, and I'm just gonna reset it to 100. Maybe this time, I'm just gonna do it again. I'm going to go right. So maybe we got Joe here, okay? And I'm just gonna click keyframe so that we know we're starting from there, and then we drag it over. And let's say we just wanna bring trumpet to the picture, okay? And maybe the audio is like, you know, Joe seemed like he had the race handled, and Trump made a smooth position into the race or something, you know? So click and play, and we see, look, left to right, it slides in, okay? So these are just slight movements that you can add to your pictures, going right to left, front to back, slow pan out, which will just make it a lot better, just going from picture to picture. I can do the same thing here too if I wanted this picture on top to get bigger, right? So let's say maybe we start here so that you can see that it's Trump. I start there, click my keyframe, move it over, you know, change the size, okay? And I'm just gonna move that keyframe to the beginning, to the end. Now the one on top, Trump Biden, right? We see that a lot, and you know, so now you got a little bit moving. Now see how that just changes the whole flow of the video already. Just that little bit of movement makes those two sections look more professional. At least that middle section for sure. Okay. So slight movement. All right. So those are keyframes there. Another thing, if you notice when I hover over like the end of the clip, the arrow changes, right? So that just means I can like click and drag it left. I can drag it right. But if I right click, you have apply default transition. Okay, everybody see that? So at the end of the clip, I can right click, or the beginning of the clip, I can right click, and you have apply default transition. All that is a fade, like a cross fade, okay? Cross dissolve, okay? So if I did that, see how that dissolved away? Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing here, cross dissolve, and they fade away, okay? You can also do that with the audio, okay? So I'm gonna go to the beginning of the audio, cross dissolve, and I can make it as long as I want, right? If I want it to be a long drag in the intro, I can make it myself. So the song slowly comes up. So make sure you do that. A lot of you use that cross dissolve in the beginning and the end, right? We don't want your sound to just cut off, right? So add that cross dissolve. All you have to right click, apply default transition. And if you want to, you can drag the dissolve out longer, smaller, however you want, okay? So that's the picture. This is the basics of Adobe Premiere, all right? As far as, now, if you were doing the podcast, right, you wouldn't have to add anything if you didn't want to. Let's say you just, you know, let's say that this was your cover art, right? And it said, you know, Joe versus Trump, you know, podcast. And this is your cover art, and maybe you had Joe versus Trump text right here, you know, by whoever. And I'm just gonna add this, just, you should be making your graphic design in Photoshop. Make your graphic design in Photoshop, save it, and then drag it onto the timeline, okay? What I'm doing here, this is literally just for visual purposes for you guys, but I'm gonna make a quick, you know, title, Joe, Cap Joe versus Trump, the podcast. All right, so this is literally just, yeah, this is really just a legacy title. If anybody's curious, it's just a legacy title. You go to File. Let me change the size. Get in work mode. Okay, boom. So if you needed to do that, you go to File, New, Legacy Title. Okay, and you put it in. You guys aren't doing that. You guys are making your cover art in Photoshop like you did your About Me projects, okay? So I'm gonna drag that in from here. If you ever have to do that, everything that you kind of make it to come here to come to the beginning. So I'm gonna drag that on top. All right, and let's say that this was my cover art, right? So all you would have to do, if this is your cover art, you just bring it in, and you know, as we talk, you will see it, you know, let's say the whole time. You don't have to make any adjustments, anything like that. The most work you're gonna be doing is designing your cover art, laying it on top of your audio, and then making sure, you know, your audio is not too loud, you know. So simple tools, make sure you guys see some of the small things. This arrow key selection tool, this is definitely how you get it for the most part, for everything. If you're on any of these other tools like the cut tool, you may need to know that for the razor if you want to cut a section, but you guys will not have to deal with that too much. All right, it's mostly getting back into Photoshop, making your cover art if you're doing the podcast, and if you're doing the PSA, getting a collection of pictures that match your subject matter. Kind of cool. So, you know, you can play with this, get your audio from Audio Library. And so this is basically all Premiere. All right, this is all of Premiere. You can also do this project in Illustrator. All right, and